Hi there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. Today I have a couple of congratulations cards that I wanted to show you how you can use lots of glitter on a card or very little. Of course, you don't ever have to use glitter, but I mean, who doesn't like a little glitter from time to time? So let's get started with our cards. I'm going to start by taping a panel of some Simon Says Stamp Fog cardstock down to my stamp platform. I want to do a background stamp, so I can't put it directly right into the center there or right to the corner, and so I just have to temporarily adhere that. And then I'm going to use the background stamp from Simon Says Stamp called Good Reading. It's just a really great filler background, and it's got a lot of, words. I believe it's a recipe, but anyway, or maybe it's something from a newspaper. I haven't actually tried to read it. I just really like the look of it. So I'm stamping that down using some Altenew Morning Frost ink. This is from a set, because Altenew usually sells their ink pads in sets of 4. And so I did that a couple times just to make sure it was good and stamped down. And now I'm using some Nina Solar White cardstock, and I am going to stamp the flower. You've seen this before if you've been to my channel at all. It's a stamp set from Altenew called Build-a-Flower Gardenia. And so if I were to do this again, I would actually start with the outline stamp, because I think that that would make this stamping process a little bit easier. So next time I do this, I'm going to use the outline, but I started off using the lightest gray, which is called Morning Frost, and I stamped the solid image because these are layering stamps with that Morning Frost. And I'm going to do it a couple times because, like I said, I wanted to make 2 cards. And so I stamp everything a couple times, but I'm not going to show you all of that. And I'm not going to show you the stamping of both of the images. Pardon my head there. Now, the second layer, I'm going to use Evening Gray, which is the next lightest ink in the cube, or in the set. And I really like how Altenew has formulated their inks to just kind of go on top of each other so nicely. This one's just a little bit darker than that one I just stamped down, and it ends up, the end result is so pretty. And for the third step, I am using Moon Rock. And the packaging usually, not usually, it does have a very good way of setting it up, how you're supposed to stamp them down. So make sure you hang on to your packaging if you ever buy any Altenew stamps. And so then the fourth and final layer is the outline, and that I am stamping with the Lava Rock. And like I said, if I had to do this over again, I would stamp this first because I think it would make the rest of the process a little bit easier. Another suggestion would definitely be to let your inks dry a little bit in between, maybe even heat set them. So now I'm going to stamp the leaf, and that is another, I'm using another set of 4 from Altenew, and I'm going to start with the Frayed Leaf. And I'm going to stamp it twice, but I'm not going to show you all the different times I stamp it. And I stamp it a couple times to make sure that it's good and crisp. And I'll just flip my paper and stamp it again. And so then the second stamp, or the second layer, I'm going to use the second color, the second lightest color, which is called Forest Glades. And this set of 4 is called Green Fields. So I'll stamp that. And then for the third layer, I'll use Evergreen. And that's just for the veins of the leaf. They have such beautiful floral images, Altenew does. And so now I've lined up the coordinating dies, and I've taped those in place with some micropore tape, as well as a Labels 11 Nestabilities die from Spellbinders, and I'm not showing you all of that. And I put that over my background stamped panel, and I'm going to run those through my Big Shot machine off camera. And to adhere my glitter, I'm using some score tape, so I'm just trimming some down to fit behind my panel. And it doesn't have to be perfect because the flower will actually cover that one spot that doesn't get covered. So I pulled out a coffee filter to catch the excess glitter, and then I adhere my tape to a white cardstock panel. And I peel off the backing paper, and then I just start pouring that glitter. And that glitter is actually from Stampin' Up. I probably got that glitter, I'm not kidding, maybe 15 years ago. So yeah, I'm pretty certain they don't have it anymore. But any purple glitter or any glitter would do for that matter. And so now I'm going to use a bone folder to burnish that glitter into the taped panel. I'm just making sure that that glitter is really on there. I don't want any loose glitter coming off. And I'll be honest with you, I really didn't have a whole lot. I shook this off, and then I repeated the process just to make sure all that tape was covered, and burnished again, and then that was that. So then I've trimmed down my panel so that I can adhere that to a fog card base, and I'm going to use some liquid glue to do that because I want to have a little bit of wiggle room, because I'm going to put it down and then I'm going to make sure that my frame is going to be in the right spot. As you can tell, it isn't, so I kind of move that just a little bit. And then I've covered my frame with foam tape and I've attached that to my base. A lot of foam tape. And to adhere my flower, I'm going to use a combination of foam tape and liquid glue. So once I've decided where I want it, I will grab out my foam tape again. My roll's getting a little slim. I'm going to have to buy some more of that. And I want to make sure that that foam tape is going to sit nicely on top of that glitter. So I'm going to use my liquid glue over the top of the foam tape as well. And then I'll just adhere that down. And then I try to fit my leaf underneath. And so I trim off one of the leaves because I realized it's just going to be covered too much. And then I'll use the liquid glue to adhere that as well. And then I'll just stick that other little leaf on the side. So for my sentiment, I grabbed another set that's from Simon Says Stamp called Floral Bliss. And I'm going to stamp the congratulations sentiment on the bottom of that white panel using the lava rock. And I trim that down, and I'm going to adhere that using a combination as well of foam tape and liquid glue. This was all kind of a learning process for me. I'd never actually made a card with this much glitter before, but I've seen others do it, and I thought, oh, it sure is pretty. So again, making sure that that foam tape is covered with liquid glue as well, because I want to make sure that stays on top of the glitter panel. And you'd think with that much glitter that would be enough, but oh no. I have pulled out some Simon Says Stamp Moonshine Confetti. Now these are basically sequins without holes in them. I really like them. And they're, they're neutral color, so they go really well on just about anything. I was having a time there with my crystal katana actually picking up the confetti, so I wet it down just to kind of clean it off because I think I have some glue stuck to it from another project. And I'm just adhering those with that liquid glue again. And once I've got all those adhered, that's actually going to finish this card. But I decided with all the extra pieces, I would make another card. So I've grabbed another fog card base, and I'm using the negative from the frame that I made for the other flower parts, and I'm going to adhere those to this card. And I'm using foam tape to adhere that frame, or the die. Couldn't let it go to waste. And I figure out how I want to put my flower, which is basically in the same layout as the other card. And I do the same thing with my leaf, and I even trim off the leaf again, the other leaf, and I'll adhere that leaf down with some liquid glue. And I decide that even though I put that foam tape on top of the flower, it's just too much. It'll cover up that leaf entirely, and I didn't want that. So I end up pulling off the foam tape, and I will use it. I won't waste it. So I'm just going to cover that with liquid glue and put that down. And then I'll attach the other leaf, and I'll even grab a piece of that foam tape so that I can make sure that the leaf, since it's sticking up, and I'll put the other pieces underneath the parts that are hanging over. I stamp the sentiment again using the exact same method, and I'll adhere that down with some liquid glue and a little bit of foam tape. And then for a final bit of embellishment, my favorite embellishment lately has been these enchanted stickles. And those have glue in them, or glitter in them as well. So that's how you can use just a little bit of glitter. And so that's going to finish off both of these cards. They're both different, but a little bit the same. And anyway, I really hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.